Hi, my name is Craig Fraser from Craig Fraser Studios, and today I'm going to do a couple of different demos on this video. They're going to kind of kill a number of birds with one stone. We're going to do we already have a flame layout behind here. We're going to shoot it with a white sealer using the Autoborne sealer from Cratex, and then we're going to come immediately on top of that with a yellow semi-opaque base coat. And then on top of that, we're going to do a fade. Now, the one reason we have the two flames is to show two different styles. Now, I've had a lot of clients in the past ask about, hey, I want to do a purple fade on a yellow flame. How would you go about doing that? And when they try it, they get that really nasty brown transition color between purple and yellow because purple and yellow are complementaries. Complementaries work very, very well side by side, but they do not blend well together. They actually create, matter of fact, you use them to darken each other up. Yellow darkens with violet, violet darkens with yellow, and same with the other complementaries. And so many of them say, well, I don't want it to blend because when it blends, it gets that brown color, so I'll just use an opaque color to blend. Well, it's still going to blend. It's still going to look badly. So many times they make the assumption that, oh, well, you cannot do a purple fade on yellow. It's not possible. And that is also not true. That's another extreme either way. There's always a way around it. Matter of fact, when you're doing color theory, there is usually multiple ways around it. So we're going to show you what happens when you put purple over yellow. And we're going to show you if you really, really want that purple tip on the yellow flame, I'm going to show you how to actually make it work. So let me clean my brush out and get it all ready, and we'll start out with the white sealer. Okay, I'm back and I got the airbrush good and cleaned out and ready. I want to make sure there was nothing left in it. And the sealer we have here is the Autoborne white sealer, and it's reduced down 10% with 4012. Now when you look at it, it looks pretty thick. Trust me, 10% is about all you need. Now, could you over reduce it? Sure, but I would never go more than 15 or 20% at the very, very most. Otherwise, it's going to slow down the drying time. Now, this is a great sealer to put underneath any base coat. We've used it with solvent bases as well. Very durable, dries incredibly fast, and doesn't delaminate. I mean, it literally dries great, lays perfectly flat, and just a great sealer base for a paint job. And it works very well, of course, with other Cratex products. Got my TH going here, just a little spray out, make sure it's spraying okay. And again, you want to come in, put a light coat down. You don't want to just start honking it on there. If you've seen the previous video where my partner was spraying the underside of an Impala with a black sealer, he had it really going on there strong, but that was being used as an undercoat. He really wanted to really just flood the area and get coverage. I'm using it just because I know using a semi-opaque yellow over black, I'm going to actually get some of that black coming through. I'll have to use a lot more yellow on there unless I put this white base down. Plus, here's another thing. Let's say you're going over a black base coat and you don't know what it's in that black base coat. If it's a blue-based black and you put yellow on top, you're going to get green showing through. So the way to eliminate that, a little bit of white sealer down, and you're good to go. And you can spray a light coat of this. It acts as a great barrier too. So I'm going to come in and just spray side to side, a little bit of a light coat. And it sprays really nice. Stuff sprays amazing. And I'm going to do both sides. This is a light coat I'm doing. This fan tip TH. And you can just touch the area around here. I mean, right there, that's already dry. That's how fast it dries. By the time I got to that side, so when you're working on a vehicle, by the time you get to the other side, many times you can either go in for a second recoat. At the very most, usually we'll wait about 15 minutes or so. Now, how long do you wait before you put the yellow on later or another color on top of it? It depends really on the temperature and air motion. If it's really cold weather, you want a lot of air motion to actually get all the water out of that sealer. I would usually say anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour before you actually go in and recoat. And you can also do a touch test on it. I mean, of course, if it feels dry, but touch it. If it's cool to the touch, and I mean cooler than you think it should be, then that's also the sign that the water's still evaporating, still curing. I'm going to come in and do another light coat. A little bit more of an overlap. Now I'll come in a little heavier, and I'm not worried about waiting for this to dry as much because the first coat you put on is like a tack coat. I call it the glue coat. You go in and honk any kind of paint, whether it be water-based or solvent, right on a surface and get it wet, there's a possibility it's going to mottle or fisheye. I don't want either of those to happen here. I'm actually going to leave, I'm not worried about total coverage here either because I'm going to come in with that yellow. But I do want the bottom to be nice and solid white because I'm going to use the bottom. I'm going to keep that kind of a light white or yellow. I'm going to blend the yellow down, take advantage of this white. That's one of the nice things about these sealers is their quality of the pigment is good enough they actually can stand on their own. Now, just to let you know, if you're going to use this, the Autoborn sealers, and you're going to clear coat on top of them immediately and use just the color, say you want a white card and you use that white sealer, I would actually highly recommend you would use the white sealer, then come in with a bright white or one of the Kratex white base coats or the AutoWare base coat on top and then clear coat it. And the reason being is those sealers are designed, they're not designed to be clear coated, they're designed to be base coated over. But you can come in and put in a coat of 40-30. Reduce it down, put a light coat of 40-30, and that acts as a transparent base, and then you can go ahead and clear right on top of that. Another way to do it is to wait overnight for it to fully cure. So in this situation, the base coat, this is already dry. This dries much faster than some of the other base coat systems out there. So being that it's a sealer. So as soon as we clean my airbrush out, it'll be ready for me to come in and put the yellow on that. Okay, our sealers had enough time to dry, and I cleaned the airbrush out really good. You don't want to actually leave any sealer in your gun when you're adding base coat on. You may think it's okay, they're both Kratex. No, the Autoborn sealer is a completely different formulation than the Kratex base coats, and so you don't want to leave any in your gun. Plus, this is a sealer. It's designed to get very hard and be very durable, and you really want something very hard and durable in your airbrush. So I always make sure to clean it out very well. And then I mixed up a batch of the semi-opaque flame yellow AutoWare. And did we add any 40-30 to it? Yes, we did. We added about 30% of the 40-30 and then 10% of the 40-12. Now, we highly recommend using the 40-30 in all of the base coats, but we not just highly recommend, it is absolutely necessary to add the 40-30 to the candies. Our candies all have a 50-50 mix of 40-30, Candy 2.0, and then to 10% of the reducer. So remember, with the candies, it's not just a good idea, it is mandatory to put that 40-30 in there. Now, I got my yellow on my gun, and I'm going to come in and start blending from the top down. I want to leave a little bit of the white at the bottom showing through, just to take advantage of the fact that I can have some white thrown through it. It adds another color to the flame. Plus, it looks kind of cool. If you see a lot of flame designs, they'll go a full spectrum. I'm going to do a little test spray. It's looking good. And I will come in and hit this yellow. This is a semi-opaque, not a candy, but it also is not a full opaque. Otherwise, I could probably get away with spraying it direct over black. And then slowly blend it down. Same thing here. I'm not worried about doing a tack coat on this. Why? I've already got the sealer on there, and that provided the tack coat. I was more concerned with the ability of the sealer to adhere to the underlying substrate. So our sealer is our tack coat. And I start getting a little on the wet side, so I'm hitting it with some air. I'll go do this one. As that side dries, I'll blend this one here. Now I've got the fan pattern on this TH. I'm not doing a traditional, just going back and forth like that. It's almost wasted material on this flame. I'm kind of contouring the flame with the gun, but I'm still using about 3/4 or more overlap with this. And blow some air on it. You always test the side. Feel the paper. Don't touch the actual surface. I really want those tips to be nice and bright yellow. That's about all I need. Now, is there any way to modify this yellow? This yellow right here is a little bit on the, you can see almost a green tint to it. That's not the black coming through. For one thing, it wouldn't anyway. That's a black powder coat on that sign. But what you're seeing is yellows have a tendency to either be on the red shade or being on the blue shade, which means one's a greenish tint and one is an orangish tint. Now, if you did not want your yellow to have that, you can always just select another yellow. Usually what's the term chrome yellow has to do with the red shade yellow. It's like an orangey type yellow, where a lemon yellow has a tendency of being on the green shade. This one's a little on the green shade. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if I did want to make sure, and I didn't have a chrome yellow laying around, all you have to do is add a little bit of orange to it. To get rid of green, you got a little bit of red. that's the complement the way it darkened down, but just add a little bit of orange. You can even make it an orange candy. Just add it to that yellow. It'll pop that green side off, make it a little bit more like a chromium yellow. So that's how you can get it. And you can add the Candy 2Os as a color enhancer to the AutoAir base coats. They work very, very well with it. That's a nice thing about these systems. You can add the candies and tint and modify any of these systems. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit where I clean my airbrush out, and we're going to come in and start tipping our flames. Okay, back from cleaning my airbrush, and we've given the flames a little bit of time for the yellow to dry. And we're going to come in and do the flame blend on the tip, do a little tipping on there. I'd rather use an airbrush, like a conical pattern airbrush, than a fan pattern to do the tips. A little bit easier to control. So I swapped out, nice thing about the TH, I just swapped out the fan head that you have for the airbrush head. And I'm going to pour in my mixture here. What we're using is this one right here. Deep purple, Candy 2O, mixed 50-50 with the 40-30, and again, 10% of the 40-12. Don't need a whole lot, so I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Give it a little shake, a little test spray, and we're good to go. Now, I'm only going to do this side first because I want to show you what happens when you spray a violet, or in this case, a deep purple, very similar in color, on top of a yellow. These are complementaries. So you'll get, if you hit it really hard, you can get a nice violet color eventually, but notice it almost is a black. It's kind of has a brownish tint. That's because they're literally canceling each other out. I keep spraying a little. I want to spray it, make sure it dries. I don't want to get too wet. Now this is a candy, so it is utilizing the base color of the yellow to really have the violet show through. And if this was an opaque violet, color, like a AutoAir violet, even a violet pearl, we could come in here and you'd see more violet up here on the top, more true, because it's not required of the base color to show through. It's got a ceiling color. It's a semi-opaque. In this case, this candy, it's going to take a whole lot for it to eventually start showing the violet. As a matter of fact, you'll probably never exactly see the violet by comparison, because your eyes are going to keep going to this horrible transition. So this is an example of the client wants yellow flames and purple tips, and you give him yellow flames with purple tips, and he hates it. It's like, that's not what I asked for. It's not what I wanted. It looks horrible. And you have to kind of agree with them. You start to see the violet appear eventually if you keep on hammering it. But it's a very dark, it's almost as dark as the candy black. A little bit of pearl would help make it stand out. Or a little bit of opaque. Now, how would you make it opaque? Well, you could add a little bit of white to this violet and make that pop out. A little bit of a lavender opaque, and that kind of all of a sudden start showing the violet by itself. The main issue is not the tip. The main issue is this transition. It's always going to have a dark black, or even worse, like a really nasty brown color that'll transition between it. There is a way around that. So let me clean this airbrush out real quick, and I will show you the transition and how to create a set of purple tips on your yellow flames. Okay, I'm back, and I was debating a couple of different ways to approach this. This area right here, like I said, at certain angles I can see the violet, but that candy, no matter what's, never going to show up. Even on this yellow one over here, the violet's always going to be weird over that the yellow, and it would definitely not transition well either. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of white sealer just to show you an example on both how to do it. And I brought in another airbrush. Now, I don't have a regulator on this brush, so it's really blasting a lot of air, and the regulator's in the other room. But I'll show you a neat trick. Just squeeze the hose a little bit. You got your own reduction right there. So I just use a little of this reduction on here to spray a little bit of white seal. Just blend it in just on the tip here. Not much, just a little. And then over here also, over the yellow. Not much. Now the first thing you're thinking is like, well, that's the way you could fix it over here. You just blend white. Blend white to cover up all of that and then bring the violet in. I go, well, yeah, but where's the transition going to be? You're going to have to go with a violet to white to yellow transition, and I have white down here. Now, I did put white up here. If I really got it wet on there, it would actually reactivate some of the candy, and you'd get a little bit of a lavender tint, which can be kind of cool. Sometimes I actually purposely will reactivate colors with other colors to get some secondary and tertiary blends. In this situation, if I didn't want that to blend, it's not bleeding right now, but if I really was concerned about it bleeding, I would have hit that area with some 40/40, which is a bleed check that Createx makes. Great stuff, dries very fast. You can spray it right on top of a red candy, let it sit for like 15 minutes, come in with spray white highlights, really wet, won't even bleed that candy at all. So I got a little bit of white on both of those. That's already dry by now. And I use a different airbrush, and I said I grab that little eclipse right there. Good, now go back to my TH that has the Mac valve regulator on the front, so I'm not spraying that much. And I will use now my Sunset Magenta color. Now this is the way you can blend a violet into a yellow, or a purple into a yellow without getting that brown. You bring in a secondary color, another transition, which would be the magenta. See, magenta, violet over yellow is brown, or a dark blackish brown, just a dirty color. Magenta over yellow is what? Orange. So we got we can come with a really cool orange color here that goes up to pure magenta up there with the white. And then on top of the magenta, the violet candy, of course, will be fine. I want to leave a little bit of that white shown because I want some of that violet candy to show up nicely over the white as well. Here's the magenta color in this brush, and I got the airbrush nozzle on this one as well. I'm going to come in and blend just from the middle right here, that magenta, and blend it down into the yellow. See, this way I almost get a red. You just notice, like, wait a second, magenta actually turns red on top of yellow. That's something to store in the back of your head. If you're actually working with something, you want a red blend over yellow, don't use red necessarily. Maybe use magenta and it'll pop up and look as red. So in this case, came out real nice. We got a little bit of an orange fade down here with the yellow. I can always come back with yellow and blend it back up if I want a little bit. But remember, the yellow is semi-opaque. That leaves overspray. The candy doesn't. The candies always will blend better. So if you have a choice, if you're going an opaque with a candy and you want to know which one to blend, always blend the candy into the opaque, not the opaque into the candy. If you have two candies, then you can just fight over each other on who gets to blend. But opaques, whenever they blend, create a lot more overspray. So it's always better to blend a candy into an opaque than the other way around. So I got that magenta going on in there, and I'm going to clean this gun out and go right back to my deep purple, and we'll show you how this will work really nicely with this transition and how the deep purple will even clean this up a bit, but can't really do a whole lot about that unless you came in with the magenta candy on top of it. So let me clean the brush up and we'll go to the next step. Okay, I got my airbrush good and cleaned out, and we're going to go back to that same violet candy, which is actually, it's a deep purple candy. And we're going to do a little bit of a blend. First, we're going to try this one over here, the one we did the magenta on. And you might like the white. You may say, actually, I like the white tips on that. But I wanted to show you that doing a deep purple. Notice all of a sudden the deep purple comes through nicely on that white. Much better. Why? Because the white is the base for the candy. If I had used a semi-opaque violet, I probably could have gotten away with not having to do the white on there. Now I want to do the blend into the magenta a little bit, but I want to be careful not to go down too far. If you go down too far into that orange or into the yellow, you'll get that brown again. So this way, let that air dry there. Even this one, I can come in with the violet, so at least you can see the tips better over that white sealer. So see, no matter what I do, that violet candy is going to just have a really nasty transition. I don't know any client that's going to, they might love the tip and they love the yellow and they're like, it just looks like dirt right there. So you can see the difference between the two. Much cleaner transition. You got your nice purple tips on there. Might even want to come in with the magenta and come along this bottom edge right here. Sometimes I'll actually add an accent shadow on the end of that. Now I did make a comment, like you can actually come in and do a repair. When people say something's not possible with color blending, it's not just possible, it's possible in two different directions. Because each time you have a problem or a solution on the color wheel, it's coming from two sides. You know, either this primary on this side or this one on that one. We fixed this one with an ultraviolet fix. We came in with a magenta that went over the yellow, transitioned from orange to magenta and then violet. We could do it one other way. This way, just directly do it with no transition colors didn't work. We could come in with a green and come in with a really nice green right here, or you just use that, the Cree blue has green in it. And if you had a little bit of Cree blue and you blend it in here, the Cree blue will naturally turn into green on this yellow, and then that Cree blue will blend nicely into violet. See, so there are, if you have any problem with the color not matching or not working, or you can't put it together, it's not working, there is a solution. Heck, there's two solutions. So I want you to always think about that. The answers are fairly simple, and don't buy a big old book on color theory. Get yourself a little color wheel or just a very small pamphlet on it. Color theory will make or break your design. Whether you believe in it or practice it, it doesn't stop it from existing. It's pretty much the nuts and bolts of and the philosophy of custom painting. So anyway, my name's Craig Fraser, and I will see you next time.